Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be doing a partial res tier list. This tier list is strictly going to be on the partial side, but we will account for partial essence so we can take the entire kit into account. In any case, we can start off with acid. Acid at first glance is probably one of the most bland looking reses in the game right now. Like, aside from majority of the moves looking like a fart cloud, I'd put acid at a B tier, simply because it has a move that can nullify damage for a duration, and given all its moves can do percent damage with its acid passive, it does some pretty solid damage as long as you can get close and land your contaminate. Pretty nice. Next up we have Arrogante. Arrogante, very easily an A tier. I might even put it at S tier. If we take a look at Arrogante, for one thing, its counter. The counter is pretty nice for dealing damage, and Decompose also can apply a debuff, which also guard breaks, by the way, which is actually pretty insane. So not only is it fast, but it can also guard break and apply a debuff that can either prevent flash steps or a damage debuff where they deal less damage to you. Lastly, we have Funeral, can be used for combo extending. Other than that, I would actually put Arrogante at S. It's really nice. Next up, what do we have here? We have Bone. Bone, I put at A tier. For Bone, it may seem like a weird spot for Bone, but I think it's actually really good because Rupturing is pretty much like an Eviscerate. It's pretty nice for when you land it, so you can actually get up close very safely. Encasing is amazing for combo extending. A lot of the times when people do Encasing, you can do Rising Swallow. Bone also has a passive where it can slow people, especially in their flash steps, so it's easier to catch them. Finally, we have Spline, which is one of the best moves in the kit. The amount of pressure that you can apply with Spline and force their parry, it makes it really good for when you use guard breaking moves. It sits very well at an A tier. Devil, okay, it takes a rare kind of person to make Devil work. Devil isn't horrible. In order to make Devil work competitively, you definitely have to know how to play Hakata. Majority of these moves can apply some good posture. Other than the Devil God Fist, none of these guard break at all. The ground C is very nice for ragdolling the enemy into Shori. This res is simply just made for Hakata. Even then, there are still way better partials out there that pairs with Hakata. Unfortunately, Devil's just gonna have to sit at a C for me. Light. Okay. Light sits at an uncomfortable spot right now. It's received a lot of nerfs. Light has some pretty interesting gimmicks with it, where Starlight Surge, it doesn't say this in the trailer, but when you hit somebody with the Surge and you teleport to them, you can actually feint the second parts and lead into a guard break and just follow up with combos. Luminant Beacon, the hitbox did receive a nerf, so it's not as powerful as it once was, but if you can lead that into a guard break, it will actually be stunned for a very long time. So you can actually pair some moves that are quick once you fall down to the ground, and it'll be true. Prismatic Bolt, the bolts are pretty quick. Only thing bad about it, if you parry the first bolt, the rest will just get canceled. Starlight Surge, it's a hard move to land from far away. Other than that, it'll sit comfortably at a B tier, definitely not a C. Next up, we have Panthera. There is a bug with Panthera. I hope the devs can actually fix this, but there is a bug with Sonito Claws. You're supposed to combo extend off of it, but for some reason, Sonito Claw does not apply enough stun. So after they hit you with Sonito Claw, you can literally just straight up M1 them as you're ragdolled. It's actually really stupid. Prey's pretty good as a tiny little gap closer. It doesn't do a lot of stun. Also, Desgaron, this is really good for poking, because all these moves are very fast. That aside, I would put Panthera at a B. As long as Sonito Claw is still bugged like that, it can't compete as strong as every other res. If it gets fixed, easily A tier. Phoenix really fell from grace. None of its moves can guard break. Rain is just a slow, shitty reskin of Phage. It does have a variant where it can go a lot further and a lot faster, but it still doesn't really save this move. It's still very, very iffy. Overclock, this used to be pretty good until they nerfed it to doing 80% posture. Rebellion also does a bit of posture. This is alright for dealing damage, but the fact that they lost all their guard breaks, everybody's just gonna easily just block everything and then punish them afterwards. I'd also have to put Phoenix at C tier. Shark, very easily A tier. The thing with Starrk is you could easily like escape combos as long as they're not too quickly chained with one another and become invulnerable. As long as they're in the whirlpool range, you could just easily hit them, even through parries, which is actually kind of insane. Even if you parry it, you still hit them anyway. They can't block it, they can't dodge it. The best way you can avoid this is by running away from the whirlpool, which isn't too hard in and of itself. Cascada, I'm not sure if this is the... Okay, this isn't the sharks. Cascada can slow people as a water projectile. It doesn't follow the person like Feeding Frenzy does. Feeding Frenzy is very good for pressure because it almost acts as like a faster spline. Does some pretty decent damage even after the nerf. Cascada has a weird like curving, like when you do it from far away, it curves weird. So you can't like accurately hit them from far away. It's a very good projectile spam kit. Definitely kind of cheesy if one just runs away using Dive and Hunt. Moving on into Slash. Slash is Slash sits at pretty well at B tier because with Byakko being a hyper armor rush that can start combos very easily, even if they block it or they parry it, it has no parry stun whatsoever. So even if they block it, you could just easily follow up with a move anyway. Ravage, it's an okay combo starter. It's not as good as Byakko. Definitely doesn't do a lot of damage. It can't guard break either. Finally, Slash Tempo. You can also block this one. It's very good for poking, just like Descaron. These can also apply bleed, just like Grimjaw Claws. So it's actually pretty good for dealing damage and combo starting. So I take that back. I will actually put that at A tier. Next up we have Spirit. The thing with Spirit is it's very janky for a res. Spirit combo can do some pretty solid damage if you land it all. You know, it's very nice. Even with Hakata, you could just follow up in the Shori. Sometimes people won't expect it. Spirit Gun is very like weird. It's not very good for combo extending at all. Say if somebody's like charging at you, say with something like Flower Passage, you just shoot a Spirit Gun, you know. Won't do a lot of damage, but it'll stop them in their tracks, you know. So it's very good for giving yourself some space if you're getting pressured too hard. It comes out pretty quick. Finally, we have Serapalm. Serapalm is very nice. It can guard break. It has enough stun to where you can lead up into another move as long as it has the distance to cover. I'd say it sits very nicely at a B tier. There are definitely other reses that can deal as much damage without it being as difficult. Like Spirit Combo, this can be pretty difficult to land sometimes, especially on players that are very wary of it. Other than that, pretty solid res. Next up we have Starrk. Starrk very easily goes into S. The Sonita Sero is very good for poking, especially like if you intentionally miss one of your Seros to bait out their block. The Corazon, as long as you know how to aim your Corazon and when to use it, you'll hardly find any time when you're punished. The Hyper Armor is very valuable. When after you land Corazon, you can feint the punch and lead it into a guard break. So say if you're Kendo, you know, you could just feint the punch and just go into vertical down, split gate. It's an easy bar. The wolf is the most annoying move anyone will ever deal with. This wolf is also similar to a spline, except not only does it do more than half your posture when you block it, but it also has a very strange like explode time. It probably takes like a solid second for them to actually detonate instead of it being instantaneous. It's very hard to get used to it unless you give yourself some distance. Even then, they can typically just follow up with another move as you attempt to block the wolf. It's a very good pressuring tool, especially when it lands. It can ragdoll. This is a very strong kit, so it will sit comfortably at S. Next up we have Storm. Storm is very good for starting combos, especially because all of its moves have relatively quick startup, except for Tempest. But with Tempest has two variations where it can do a quick stomp where it's blockable, or you can hold the variant and make the wind up longer but then make a guard break. So it's actually really good at doing that. Battery, very good gap closer. it goes further than stock. Stock and battery are essentially the same move. They're both very quick for starting moves. If people aren't cautious, I definitely have to put it at A tier, especially if you fight somebody who's very unpredictable with it. Next up, we have Vamp. Vamp is also going to be put at an S tier, and there's two very good reasons why. For Payday, the thing about Payday is that they have two variations. The first variation is the one that vacuums and then can ragdoll, deal some very good stun and lead into combos. Or there is the second variant where the spear throw will be slower but will instantly detonate on impact. When you throw your Payday up close, it'll be very difficult for them to tell on which variant you're trying to use. Say if somebody parries the vacuum, you can just very easily use the other variation, and majority of the time they'll never see it come. Phage also has two variants. A lot of people typically don't use the first variant, which is a slower tab closer. It also doesn't cover as much distance, but when you hold the variant, they go very quick and very far. So people who aren't expecting it will typically get hit across the map with Phage. Phage is also very good for giving yourself health. It can heal 3 or 4% of your health. Finally, we have Echo. Echo by itself, it's not as impressive of a move. As long as you land the roar, you don't even have to land the M1. As long as they're disoriented, a lot of times people will have less of a chance of parrying your attacks. If you can land an M1 during the Echo duration, hey, it'll do pretty solid damage, almost half a bar. It's very nice. You can also heal from that. You won't heal as much as if you land a Phage, but it's an alright move. These are very good AoE options, especially very good for boss raiding. Finally, we have Volcanica. Volcanica, if I recall, no longer guard breaks on one of its moves. I believe it's Volcanic Trail. Volcanica very easily can do a lot of damage if you're not careful, especially with magma plumes. If somebody's caught in these, you're definitely losing a bar. If you're fighting somebody that's like a Rancard Keto, you are going to lose a bar if you get caught in these. These are very powerful. This acts similar to like Ambivalence. It's not as strong as Ambivalence, but it can certainly act like it. So as long as you keep up constant pressure, they will just be stun locked. Great Eruption, it's very good for if you bait out their flash step and they get close. You can usually just do Great Eruption. A lot of times people can't parry it, and if they try to, a lot of times they'll just get guard broken. It also leaves a little area where they can take burn damage, so they can't stay in there for a long time. And then finally, Volcanic Trail. It's just good for gap closing. It's not as fast. It's a decent move. I definitely have to put it at A as well. This is my list that I personally would make. Let me know if you guys would change any of these spots around. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.